Here's a story. Good morning, America. Christina Saab. Good morning. Well, good morning to you, Christina, Amy. I hope you both are having a wonderful morning. James, hello from Tennessee. Did you pronounce it Brotherton? Well, either way, good morning and welcome to Saturday morning news and chat. I hope you are having a wonderful morning. Give it a couple of minutes and for people to wake up and log in and remember, hey, there's something I watch on Saturday mornings. What is it again? Liza, good morning. Hello from Calgary, Alberta. I hope you are having a wonderful morning, Liza. I can't turn the stupid phone off, so if we get chimes throughout this, I'm sorry. I tried to mute it, but I'm streaming on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and directly to my friend's website. So I got totally four. But I hope it doesn't bother people too much. I tried to turn it down as much as I could, but it's behind the cell phone's behind me. This is my first time catching this, Will. Well, good, Amy. I'm glad you could be here with us this morning. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. And thank you for joining us. Weather outside is frightful. It is 30 degrees where I am right now. 30 degrees. It says it's supposed to be sunny, 55, but 19-mile-an-hour winds. That's not good. But supposed to get up to 55 today. It's only 30 degrees right now. Francie, good morning. I'm glad you could be here this morning with us, Francie. I hope you're having a wonderful morning already. Happy Saturday. Yes. Laza. Freedom Convoy Canada. Hashtag. Is that an actual Twitter hashtag? Freedom Convoy? I understand their overall reason for doing it, but I have to say at the same time, I'm kind of upset by it because there's a lot of parts that I'm waiting for to come out of Canada, and I want my parts. So, but I understand why they're doing it and the overall reasoning behind it. I want my parts. I know it's kind of selfish of me, but for the freedom fighters in Ottawa. Good morning, K-Love. Trudeau is wrong to seize bank accounts. Yeah, I don't get into too much of the politics of what it's when it comes up, if somebody is right or wrong for what they're doing. I mean, if I could go through here in America, we have something we call asset forfeiture. If you're traveling with a large amount of currency and you get stopped by the police department, they can seize that money from you and without charging you with any crime at all. And then the money itself has to be proven that it's not the proceeds of an illicit activity. You could be on the way to buy a car, and have $1,000 with you. The cops stop you, they see $1,000, or they find $1,000 in your car. They can seize that from you. Now, maybe you're the passenger in the car and you don't have a car and you need a car to get back and forth to work. It will cost you maybe around $5,000 or $6,000 to try to get the $1,000 back. So most people don't even bother to fight it. That's wrong. That's highway theft, and just about every state in the nation has that. But I don't get into politics. I mean, when it comes to, is that politician right for doing this, or is this person right for doing that? Because there's always going to be somebody on this side who's going to argue for it, and there's always going to be somebody on this side, and nobody gets along. All we do is end up arguing and hating each other for our views. But people just can't reasonably think anymore, and I've become very well aware of that over the course of the past 4 years of doing this. But I mean, I'd rather look at Trudeau, a picture of Trudeau, than a picture of Biden. I think Trudeau looks a heck of a lot better. He's he's a handsome man. I'll give him that. I was just reading your post on Reddit about Bob Saget. Hello, James. Christina heard about the father who shot his daughter's stalker. She's a TikTok star. Yeah, Francie, isn't that messed up? But then again, it goes to what level would we, where would we stop to protect our children from a pedophile, or somebody who is stalking them? That's a hard decision to make there. I mean, I don't know if I would go out and shoot and kill somebody, or attempt to kill somebody who was hurting my daughter. But then again, at the same time, I kind of look at the parents and go, why the hell are you allowing your teenage daughter at that age to be on TikTok? I mean, there's places and for social media like that, Facebook, Instagram, all of it. I just think that there's a certain age that they shouldn't be on there. But that's my own personal belief, though. I think TikTok isn't good for these kids. No protection. That's true. An elitist cupcake. I'll just look at the history, and we don't learn from it. Oh, isn't that true, Amy? And isn't that the saddest thing? A lot of today's society, especially the younger generations out there, and I'm not just being an old, stick in the mud here, but it's actually been proven quite a bit in study after study that a lot of the younger generation, they never talk to their grandparents. They never learn from the stories that they can tell, and they believe that everything that they need to know or should learn is on the internet. So why learn from, if they're missing an entire generation gap where our parents and our parents before them learn from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, through folk stories, or tales, of what happened and the struggles that they lived through. But now we have an entire generation that is looking back at everybody else in the history and saying, I don't need to talk to them. There's nothing that I can learn from them. Everything I need to learn, I can learn from a YouTube video. And that disconnect is more massive today than it's ever been before. And in a lot of ways, we're doomed to repeat history if we do not learn from our past mistakes. Just as a society and as individuals, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're never going to be able to correct them down the road. Shirley Moyer, hello from Arkansas. One of my favorite baseball players of all times has the last name of Moyer. Jamie Moyer. Pitcher. Longevity. But welcome to morning news in chat. We're going to get into the news here in just a minute. stick the rules for the year, not for me. Kathy, good morning, Kathy. Good morning from Tennessee. Wow, welcome, Kathy. I hope you had a wonderful week, and thank you for joining us this morning. All right, I'm gonna get into the news here, hot off the press, as you could say. Well, hot off of my printer. So this past week, I covered a story about Paisley Shultes out of New York, 6-year-old little girl who had been missing for 2 years, and she was found hidden underneath a staircase along with her mother in the home by authorities. Now, the mother and father, the biological parents, are still together, but they lost parental custody of Paisley. And the reason why is because they've both had run-ins with the law. The father has had convictions for construction theft and fraud, and also methamphetamines. Both of them have had issues with methamphetamines in the past, but they recovered Paisley, and she's been reunited with her sister in foster care. Now, um, there's more information about who the foster care parents are in this case, but I'm not going to get into it because I can't confirm that part of it. But she's safe. She's with her sibling, so that's all that really matters at this point. But there's been a couple of different larger channels on YouTube and on Facebook in particular who have speculated that Paisley was physically or sexually abused. And, well, it's not true. Before Paisley was reunited with her sister, she was, given a meal by the law enforcement, officers. They took her to McDonald's, by the way. She did get a full meal that she wanted, and they had her medically checked out, and she was seen by a psychologist with DHS. And we may not have the report from DHS on this case, but they did not refer any additional charges on neglect or abuse to law enforcement afterwards. So from that, we can extrapolate that she wasn't physically or sexually abused, or at least there wasn't any evidence, and it didn't come up in the interviews with the sorry with the psychologist. But it's amazing how people can take just a tiny shred of evidence, and then blow it up into a big thing like this, especially in a case like that. That and it does injustice to their viewers and people who watch it. You want to learn the actual facts around a case. You don't want people to, say, look, this is what might happen, and then instead of saying might, they take the word might out and they say happened. It does injustice to everybody because these things get out on the internet and they're there forever. And by all accounts, the mother, the father, and the grandfather took very good care of Paisley. And there was an interview that you can find online where a neighbor lady who talks about her daughter used to go over to the home to play, and Paisley was always inside the house playing. And this little girl, this neighbor's daughter, knew of Paisley, but it was only when authorities would show up did they hide her. It wasn't like she spent all her time underneath the stairwell either, because the neighbor lady talks about her daughter told her stories about playing in the house, playing dolls and other games with this little girl. But the neighbor thought it was odd that she never saw the little girl going to school. She never saw her outside, and there's a playground thing in the yard, but they never saw the little girl outside playing on this thing. But anyways, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that the speculations and those videos that people have been putting up on YouTube and on Facebook, they're the only places I've seen them so far, are wrong. and it's wrong for people to say something like that about a child. Obviously she's going to be traumatized by the fact that her parents had, hidden her away for 2 years. Um, Maybe they had good intentions of doing what they did. They thought this is the only way they were ever going to get her back, but it's wrong what they did, and it's definitely going to, mentally, harm the child, if it hasn't at this point already. I mean, it can't be easy. Even her, being in just foster care and being separated from her mother and father, that trauma alone has got to be, enough for a child. Putting her through an additional trauma like this is wrong, and they will be, and they have been arrested and they will be charged with what they've done. So, all right. 6 cents a meal. Good morning and welcome to News in Chat. Next one on the list is Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Yes, the case that never seems to end, and there's never really any new updates on the case. Well, the court is going to be hearing a motion here, hopefully soon, but we never know, do we? In this case, but Mr. Pryor filed a motion of separation. He wants to separate Chad's case from Lori's case completely. And mainly he doesn't want the evidence that pertains to Lori to convict his client, Chad, of the actual charges that he has pending against him. Now, in the actual written motion, I tried to post it online, but when I blew it up on my screen, it became really blurry. So I'm looking for another one, and if I can find it, I will post it to the community tab. But in the actual motion itself, that it was filed by Mr. Pryor, not once, but twice, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pryor referred to Lori as Lori Vallow, not Lori Daybell, but Lori Vallow. In one part of it, he referred to my referring to Lori Vallow, his wife, in the motion. He said that he didn't want his Chad Daybell's wife, Lori Vallow, evidence to convict him because she wouldn't be there or her attorneys to be there to dispute or challenge evidence that was brought against him. But twice in that motion, he referred to her as Lori Vallow and not Lori Daybell. I just point that out for all the haters out there who like, that's not fair that you keep on referring to her as Lori Vallow. That's a disgrace to Charles. She never legally changed her name at all. She never changed her driver's license or social security card, nothing to Daybell. Nothing, not her insurance, nothing at all. So she is Lori Vallow, and she was her warrant, her booking information, everything is underneath Lori Vallow / Daybell, and then all the other last names are listed as aliases. But also, the court in the case asked the prosecuting attorney, Mr. Wood, asked the court to please to reconsider not moving the entire case out of the county, but instead bringing the jury from another county there, because the court has already ruled on change of venue. But he wants to move the jury there to the district from another district. But he noted that the cost savings, it would save the taxpayers of around $200,000 or a little bit more than $200,000 in actual cost to bring a jury there, as opposed to moving the bailiffs and everybody else, the transportation, sequester fees, and everything else for everyone. It'd be about $200,000 more. And he wants the court to also reconsider on the basis of what it would do to the DA's office to take that many people from the DA's office and move them where they, farther away, where they would have to be sequestered, or they would have to be put up in hotels, and what that would do to, moving the justice system along there in Fremont County. So, that is just about it for the updates on cases that I've been following over the course of the last 30 days. I know I've done a lot on the uh, Duggar case, but there hasn't been any movement other than the last update about some of the other cases that were in front of him in line have been, concluded. Either the people who were involved that took plea agreements, and so they're not going to have to go to trial. So what they had this time budgeted out for a trial, that's now been freed up. In this case, they settled and have freed up, so it freed up this big block of time. So they're moving Josh Duggar's case farther down, towards the actual conclusion of sentencing. But at this point, there is nothing else new on the Duggar case on Josh Duggar. There is some on Anna, and there is a lot on the other Duggar family members, but because they're all just whacked in the head. Good morning, Jen. Sorry for coughing into the microphone there, everybody. Duggar's a Boy Scout compared to Christopher Watts. Good morning, Mike. A Boy Scout. I think they're equally scumbags. Josh Duggar liked to hurt little children. Christopher Watts liked to kill children. Well, at least he killed his own, and he killed his wife. So, I don't know if one's a Boy Scout, but definitely scum. Both of them are. I like to see Anna's kids examined. So would I. Good morning, Gayla. Broken Justice. Thank you. She was 91. We were so close. She called me and my kids every day. This is hard. Oh, I'm sorry. Everyone from California. Gayla is in California. Killing a pregnant woman and two sweet children is a tad worse. I don't know. Yeah, I'll give it to you, Mike. That obviously, murder is the ultimate ending. They can't come back from that. It's just a tad worse. I'll give that to you. Um, I think about the emotional and physical trauma that a child who has been molested and abused goes through, and what Joshua Duggar did to his siblings, his family, friends. Then the child pornography, what he was really into, and what he watched. And I can't wait for the discovery of him. Once he gets sentenced, I can file the FOIA request to actually try to get some of the actual documentation from the case to show everyone. But saying that Josh Duggar was into the worst of the worst, and trying to describe his connections to some of the most disgusting child pornography that is out there that he watched, purchased, and downloaded, it doesn't do it justice. But I can never show the stuff on in a video, but trying to find a way to explain to everyone what he was into is it's never going to be enough. But that's a lifelong trauma, and then Christopher Watts killed his family. That's an ultimate conclusion where this is a lifelong struggle to recover from. But I get it, Mike. It is a tad bit worse. Debbie Gilligan. Good morning, Will, and everyone. Good morning, Debbie. Mike, you're moving to California. When? So many are moving out. Everybody I know. I really think Gayla is the only one I know left in California. Right in January, the middle of January, the last two people I knew who lived in California moved out. They're gone. One moved to Salem, Oregon. The other one moved to Texas, to Austin, Texas, no less. But we all got to live somewhere, right? And not everybody's able to just pick up and move. There's good bad things and bad things. It all depends on where you move to in a state. I mean, there are parts of this state that I live in I don't want to live, but there are other places I would love to be, to love the high taxes, gasoline prices while you're enjoying the great weather. Everyone is moving to Tennessee. I actually, Christina, I have a friend who just bought property in Tennessee. Not sure exactly why she decided to do it, but she decided. I guess she's going to move. She wants to be there. I guess she has family back there, so yeah, we all got to live somewhere. Sensible crime. Good morning. How are you doing? Why can't we put people with child porn in prison for 20 years, but we let people who rape children out after a few years? I agree with you, sensible crime. When it comes to the justice system, in a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense. How is it that someone can do more time in prison for possession and dealing marijuana, and a rapist can be out in less than 6 years, where somebody who deals a pound of marijuana and it's their third conviction of dealing marijuana, will do 20-25 years. The justice system obviously has issues, but it's the best system we have. And when it comes to needing and asking for reform, we're all responsible for voting the people in who can make those changes. So, and there isn't anybody out there that's going to agree that the justice system we have here in America isn't flawed. But it is hard to understand sometimes. I'll give you that. I recommend Pervert Park by 60 Minutes Australia. Changed some of my thinking. Pervert Park, is that the one in Florida where all the sex offenders live in a mobile home park together? Mike Stevens used to live in downtown Memphis. I've been to Memphis. Been to Memphis a couple of times. Well, as an adult, and I was there more as a young teenager, about 12 to 14 in that age group. Used to go back to Alabama, to Mobile, Alabama, to with my friend to visit his grandparents, and it was just like a summer vacation. We'd fly there and then hang out with his grandparents or walk around in town. But I've been to Memphis probably a dozen times my total my life, but only 2 times as an adult. I may have had a couple of adult beverages in different bars. I think a lot of people who offend against children can be in cheap, low security prison trailer park with a fence around it, and no internet. Tax. Wow. Gasoline is $2.30 per liter. 6 cents a meal. I would absolutely love to pay $2.30 a liter. Where I am, gas is about 4.90 a gallon. Kind of Cali, good morning. Well, thank you, Kind of Cali. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But Pervert Park, I think that's the one in Florida. If it's the one that the documentary, I think that was done by 60 Minutes, or maybe there's a Pervert Park in Australia as well. But basically, they're sex offenders. They put into a mobile home park because they can't live within the city limits of the larger nearby cities. From what I remember from it. Kathleen, good morning. I have not kept up on sentencing for Josh Duggar. What's latest? Josh Duggar's sentencing hasn't happened yet. Um, There are a lot of cases that were in front of it have been concluded, so it's moving a lot faster towards sentencing at this point. They're hoping to get him into court next month on sentencing for Josh Duggar. It could happen before then. It all depends on how, if anything else gets concluded beforehand. And there is no timeline. So basically, all these cases in the federal system have been backed up because of COVID and court shutdowns. But as these cases are getting concluded, he's moving faster and faster towards the inevitable sentencing date. Um, Watts, there's nothing really new on Christopher Watson, nor do I care to really look into it. I did that case for so long and I did so much on the case, and all I received was pure hatred across the internet, basically burning me at the stake. And I watched my entire channel go. A lot of people enjoyed it at the same time. A lot of people said really nice things about it, but people either stole my content completely, and everything that I did on the case, or they used my content to attack me, to build up drama, because drama sells on online. There's no faster way to build up a channel than to just spew drama all day long. You know, call someone names, pick on them for what they said, um, point out that their dialect or their hair or makeup is wrong. And even if you think that that's wrong, I mean, there's so many channels that have built complete businesses on that. Well, my makeup is better than hers. My hair's better than hers. Look at the bad roots on that one. Look at the way she's doing her eyelashes. And just by looks. Then there's, oh, she can't prove that. Tell her to give you the documentation. Well, this person's lying. They did it's like a giant cat fight, and you can find it in everything. It's not just in true crime; it's everywhere in just about every niche on the internet. But I stay away from Christopher Watts. I in the very few times that I've done updates on it, I do it, only because I'm like, I really don't want to, but it is newsworthy. Med Gas Guy, good morning, and how are you doing? I hope you've been well. Long time no see. There are YouTube channels in true crime communities that are fighting now just for the views. Oh, Amy, it's been happening since before I ever started. I hate to say that, but it has been. People contact me all the time. Would you like to come on a live stream with me so we can, dispute what this channel is saying or what this channel is doing? And I've been getting, contacted like that since I started. I don't want to be involved in it. It's why you don't see a lot of people. I don't bring them up on panels. I don't bring them up on views anymore. And the few people who I do bring up on content, I've vetted everything that we're going to talk about and what we're going to cover, on the actual case, and I've vetted the actual individual itself. So, but that's just me. I have to live my life, and I make my content is the best I can for my abilities. I mean, I think my content's gotten vastly better since I started. And none of this stuff was cheap, but I took a long time for learning curve wise. This is not something that I grew up just using. How long do you think Josh Duggar will get? Reba Crow, good morning and welcome to morning news and chat. I hope you've been doing well, Reba. Um, how long do I think Josh Duggar is going to get? I think that what the judge is going to do is he's going to give him 15 years on the charge of receiving child pornography. He's going to make both charges run concurrently. So he will have to do 12 to 14 years on that one charge. I think he's also going to give him 10 years probation parole, I mean, afterwards, and lifetime registration as a sex offender. And for a fine, I'm going to say he's probably going to, nail him for the court costs and the investigation into it. All of that plus about maybe 250,000 on top of it all. So right around 400,000 total for everything. It's the total fines and court costs. That's what I think is going to happen to Josh Duggar. I base that on what that judge in this case, how he has sentenced other people in the past for alike crimes. So if we just, he sentenced other people to the max, and he sentenced people to less, but the average is about 15 years. So that's what I think he's going to get. I have no doubt that Anna will wait for him and her parents will encourage it. Well, I don't know about Anna's parents encouraging it, but Josh's parents will encourage it. I'm shocked the judge thought that Anna had enough power in that home to supervise Josh around kids until trial. Well, Josh wasn't with the kids before trial. Josh was sent to the same family's home where he was when he got in trouble as a teenager. His parents sent him off to instead of prosecuting him for what he did to his sisters and extended family friends. I'm calling extended family. He went there for devout Christian reform and hard work. He cleaned up around construction sites, prayed a lot, and had one-on-one conversations with a man with a questionable past himself. So, but that's where he went between arrest and actual trial. He did have visitation with his children and his wife, but he wasn't in the same home with them because that was part of his release. After arrest, was he wasn't allowed to reside in the residency with anyone with children. He wasn't allowed to use internet devices or access to the internet. So he had to give up his cell phone, tablets, and laptop, hard drives, computers, and they shut down the dealership. Everything that he had, it was already a wholesale business, so they wholesaled off all the cars. Basically, another person took over the same location, and it's not a family connection. So I don't know what the total deal was there really on how that transaction took place, but I think Jim Bob and I can't remember what his name is, but he's another one of the sisters' husbands helped facilitate that actual transaction of the sale of the business. I would argue, however, many years gets all of his own kids out of the age group he preyed on at a minimum, so 14 years. I don't trust Anna at all. And I think she's absolutely blind. And then again, so much of the family, I mean, they've been brainwashed, to believe in one way. That in their religion and their group, they're taught that women are only there to serve their husbands. If your husband is unhappy and he commits adultery or he does anything else outside of the family, it's your fault as a wife for not making him happy. That's what they teach, every woman who is a member of that church. And on top of that, at the age of 10, they start giving little girls this book on their Christian values. And one of the lines from the book, I can't remember what, I think it's like on the second page, but it basically outlines whatever happens to you, in your body is the will of God. And that if something, happens to you in your body, that's God's will. They at the age of 10, they start having them practice this to get them ready for what they call adulthood, because they've married off children, young teenagers, or into relationships, they call it. They don't call it marriage, because you can't marry off certain children at 12 or 13 years of age. They just arrange, you're going to marry him when you get older, you're going to marry him when you get older, and we're going to arrange this and move things along in the church. It's a cult, by any way you look at it. Everything from the top down, it checks off all the boxes for a religious cult. And it's sad, because they're so well connected, and there are different churches throughout the east and coast of the United States, going up to from New Jersey all the way down. There are different factions or different people who've been members who've gone on and are now the pastors at different locations. Don't forget, there were 4 sex offenders in that one church who have been around Josh his entire life. 4. They tell sexual abuse victims to repent. Yes, they do. They definitely do. For tempting their father, brother, etc. They absolutely do sensible crime. That's it. It's in their doctrine. I mean, it's not spelled out so much, in that way, but in a nutshell, yes, they do. They definitely do. Language of horses. Good morning. Welcome to News and Chat. Sorry if I missed you before. I hope you are having a wonderful morning. 4 that we know of. Yeah, that is true. Just remember that when Josh Duggar, when the allegations came up of him molesting his sisters, as Josh put it, over their clothes. Yeah, that's Josh's version, not the version he told the church elders, not the version he told his parents, not the version he told his friends or anybody else. But he said, later on, he said it was over their clothing. Don't matter, you sick son of a. But the officer who investigated that actual crime of him molesting his sisters is currently in the federal penitentiary. I believe he is in Texas, but he's doing federal time for child pornography. That officer who investigated that crime, who dragged his feet and waited it out and took Josh aside and had a stern talking to him about not touching his sisters anymore. That officer is currently doing federal time for child pornography. He was a member of the church, in their group, and connected to Jim Bob, business wise, and through the church itself. And they had been to the home on multiple occasions over the years. Sad. It's really sad. I hope karma gets Josh in a big way. He makes me sick to my stomach. I'm sorry, Connie Kelly. He makes you sick. But I understand that, though. And karma is going to come back to bite Josh really hard. Because right now he's housed all by himself in the Washington County Detention Center, which also is a federal transport processing center. But he's all by himself in a solitary confinement cell, but they have an attached day room to it, so he's not in his cell all day long. And there were no other people 2 weeks ago. There may have been a couple of other people who've been since brought in who are, because it's a federal detention, ICE detention and processing center. So there may have been a couple of people who've come in since then. That was when he was using the phone all day long to be able to call anybody he wanted, because there's nobody else to fight for the phone. But he's going to get what's coming to him. Amy Farrell. Good morning, Amy. My father was a CO, and trust me, Josh is going to be popular. Ain't going to be pretty. No, and wherever they send him. So uh, when it comes to the federal government and the federal prison system in the state of Arkansas, they do not have a federal prison in the system in the state of Arkansas that has what's called a sex offender aversion program. Now, Josh will be required to take the sex offender aversion program if he wants to get out anytime soon. They could, and if he decides, well, I don't want to take this, I'm not going to take this. You can't make me. That's true. They cannot make him take the aversion program. If he decides to do that, at some point, I'm not going to do it, then he's going to do every single moment of that sentence. There's no way he's going to get released early. Man, and there is no good time in the federal system as a rule. And when I say he's going to get sentenced to 15 years and may only do 14, it's they move them to get him as close to possible to that date. If they need that bed, they kick him out because they need to move another person in that bed. That's the only way he would ever get out early. There is no good time. But if he decides not to do the aversion program, he will do every single minute of that 15 years or 12 years or whatever the hell he gets sentenced to. There's no way. And they could then on top of it in the federal system incarcerate him indefinitely until he decides to take it. So it's in his best interest to go someplace, take the aversion therapy program that they offer, which is again required that he takes, but they don't have one in the state of Arkansas. So the most likely places that he's going to go is either the Fort Worth, Texas federal one of the two in the Fort Worth area, because both of them offer the sex offender aversion program, or Oklahoma to the Great Plains Correction Center. There, those are the two closest to him right now in Arkansas, where they could move him to. And both of them have availability wise for him to be moved there. Now, as other federal inmates are being sentenced, there could be other people who take those spots, and Oklahoma could fill up. And then, no, that's off the list. So then they have to go on to the federal inmate transport program and see what other prisons are available then to have another option. It's up to the Department of Corrections, federal Department of Corrections, on where they actually send him based on his needs, medical now, and where he'll need it in the future, along with the aversion program that he has been deemed that he needs. So they make an outline of his and what he's going to need, and then they hand that to the judge, and it has a score on there, and it says if he scores in the 30s, he's going to need this level 2, 2-3 at this prison. He cannot do his time at a level 1 in the federal system. He can't do it at a work farm. He can't do it in the 15 years and suspended 14 years, 1 year in prison. They can't do that because there are certain federal laws that say he has to do so much of the actual time in prison, and he cannot do it at a minimum level, security wise prison. He has to do it at a level 2, 3, 3, 4, or above. He has to go above. He can't go below that. The federal stated minimum on the actual type of security that they will need. Federal Bureau of Prisons. Now, I can't remember what they call it. Maybe Gayla, what they call the actual score based on his security risk, health, and treatment that he needs. They have an actual name for that score. For the life of me, I have it written down in probably one of the files behind me, but I can never remember what they actually call that score. I think the sentence there for possession of child pornography is too severe. Really? I don't know. What is a supermax prison? Supermax Reba is that's where they put the worst of the worst. Uh, if you have time later after the stream on YouTube, type in Pelican Bay. Pelican, as in the bird, space Bay. That's a supermax. Uh, these in it, that's where they put the worst of the worst. The inmates who have caused so much issues in other levels and other prisons. Maybe they were at a 5 before, and they're a gang member, and they just kept on becoming a disruption or putting out hits or extorting people. They cause trouble in other prisons. They then send them to a supermax. Supermax is for the worst of the worst. Josh wouldn't he wouldn't qualify for supermax either. I don't either. We call it classification at Sacramento County. Yeah, I know it's part of the classification, Gayla, but there's a name for it in the federal system for that actual score. It's got it. I know it in my head, and I know I have it written down. It's like I want, for some reason in my head I keep on thinking FICA, but that's your credit score. But it's something like that. It's like the initials that make a name. But no, well, it doesn't really matter. It's basically classification, as you said. In the federal system, they take all that into account, and that comes up to a score on a sheet of what they need, and what the sentencing would be and where he's going to go. Oh, thank you, Reba. Thank you very much. Wasn't Martha Stewart in Supermax? No, she did federal time for, what was it, tax evasion or whatever it was, but she didn't do Supermax time. Not too familiar with the federal laws and policies, only state and counties. I think that the sentences are harsh enough, and network behind people like Josh go under the radar, i.e., Randy and Andy Julian. I was reading that other comment and it went by. Come back here. Come back here. Good morning, Deborah. Big E, Semper Fi, my brother. Semper Fi to you as well, Big E. Another true crime channel, Bullhorn Betty. I've never heard of Bullhorn Betty. There's a lot of channels out there that I've never watched. Seem to be very popular, because on my dashboard it actually shows me what other channels a lot of my viewers and subscribers are also watching, and then next to that in another column, what videos they're watching on those channels. Or so it kind of gives you a creator an idea of like what kind of content other viewers and subscribers of theirs might be interested in. I have not seen Bullhorn Betty show up on any of the lists. Apparently a lot of people like the channels that let's just say they borrow their content from other channels. A lot of my viewers and subscribers watch other channels that borrow the content from others. So, excuse me. Peace, love, and hope. Drama BS on the channels. I like this one because there's no drama. Well, thank you, peace, love, and hope. Thank you very much. She's one of the people yelling at the laundries. I encourage people to ignore her. My personal opinion. Wait a minute. I know who had the bullhorn out in front of the Laundrie's family, and who also showed up at the news conference with the bullhorn. Is that the same person? Did she change the channel name, or is it, or are there two different people who showed up there doing the same thing? Just facts. Kathleen. Good morning, Kathleen. Sorry if I missed you earlier. No, not Lolly. Okay. All right. So it was her. I'm not getting into it. I'm staying away from that. But yeah, Andra. Hmm, too different. It must be what people want to watch. You vote with your eyes. You know, if people didn't like what they were doing, they wouldn't have the subscribers. They wouldn't have the views. If maybe it's just me thinking that way. I mean, yeah, because I can't really say that, because 74.4%, and that is the lowest it's ever been, ladies and gentlemen. 74.4% of all my viewers are not subscribers to my channel. It's the first time I've fallen under 75% since I've done this. In 4 years, I've never been under 75%. But we finally made it. 74.4%. Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment to me. 6.5 million, views of my content over the last, 2 years. And most people are not subscribed. 25% though are, and that I'm happy with that. But my point of that was that saying that people subscribe to these channels and they watch this because that drama sells. People want to see other people made, be ridiculed. They want to see them, put down and made fun of, and and embarrassed. They want to see this stuff, and you vote with your eyes by clicking on the video. Medgaska, your channel is great. Well, thank you. Will knows how to keep it classy. Yeah, I do my best. I'm no expert at this. I just like to treat people the way I want to be treated. I mean, I think that's a golden rule that we can all agree to. Treat everybody with respect and treat them the way that you wish to be treated. If you can't do that in life, I mean, what the hell are you even doing? So I treat everybody the way I want to be treated. And I don't dive into the drama because it's not in my benefit. And for a lot of people, it works out short term. The drama does, but it doesn't work out long term. And I can sleep well at night. She truly does care. But I've never seen her content, Mike. I joined your Patreon specifically because you covered Joshua's crimes so honestly. Well, thank you, sensible crimes. Trixie, good morning. Welcome. I'm a great guy. I do my best. That's all I can do. Wake up each morning, you know, pray that the day it works out, and that I treat everyone with the respect that they need, and try not to trespass upon others. It's Tracy Ann. No, I like the Trixie too. I like that name. Jennifer Hill, you're kind and thoughtful and professional. I enjoy your channel so much. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. But back to you, Tracy Ann. I like the Trixie name. It's a cute name, Trixie 2. It might take me a little bit to remember it, but you still have the same picture, so I can remember it from that. And besides, it's a nickname, Trixie. That's that's a that's a cute nickname. Better than some of the other ones. I have a friend. Um, eh, she has a nickname that I can't say here. Bad Azzbitch. So you can figure it out. Bad. That people either call her that or they just call her just the last part. But it's all meant in good humor, and it's something that I can't remember where it started. It was, I think she told off a boss at one of their places of employment, and but the nickname just stuck with her. So everybody refers to her as that. You can't use that as a screen name. I mean, nobody can. I mean, I guess you could if you put symbols in place of letters and stuff like that, but it could be worse. There are definitely worse nicknames. Yep, it's me. All right, I am still here, ladies and gentlemen. I have not gone anywhere. You have not had an internet failure. I am still here. Smoke them if you got them. This is probably one of my worst flaws. Is I still smoke. I know I need to quit. There isn't anything healthy about these things. I haven't seen the Surgeon General warning that said, you know what, occasionally smoking cigarettes is good for you. I haven't seen that Surgeon General warning. I know it's bad for me, and it's definitely not going to, make me live longer. And I do want to be here to watch my son grow up. I'd hate to leave him alone. Well, not that he'll be alone. I mean, he obviously has family, but don't want to leave him without a father. My police department just called with a robocall as a resident wandered off from an assisted living facility. Oh, that sucks. Like a silver alert. We have silver alerts here. You tried quitting Big E? Life's a beach. But we have, in my area, we have silver alerts for senior citizens or for those who are dementia patients that may be out there, and wandered off from a nursing home or care facility. It happens. I mean, I remember my grandfather. He had Alzheimer's toward the end of his life, and he'd wander off. Nobody could ever figure out how he figured out how to get out of the damn place. Yeah, I think he used to crawl out of the window. To tell you the truth, he found like the one place that it wouldn't set off the alarms. But he'd get out and he'd wander off, and they'd call me, and say, "Hey, your grandfather wandered off again. We can't find him." I'd be like, "I'll be there in about 20 minutes," and I always knew where he was. He'd leave the care facility, and I'd find him, no wallet, no money, nothing at all. And he'd be at a VFW, in American Legion Hall or someplace, sitting there, and people would buy him beers, and he'd just sit there and bullshit about, World War II. Gene, you're very informative. It's educational. It's good to deter bad guys out there knowing what's really happening in the prison system. Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Clinton, New Jersey. Amy's in East Hanover. I got family that used to live in Jersey, but they all moved to Vegas. Family that from my wife's side of the family, they're all mobbed up, all moved out, but they were connected to the uh, mob that had connections to waste management. They all moved to Vegas quite a few years ago. It was in the 40s and 50s. I quit cold turkey, smoked 2 packs a day. Oh, Jesus. And good morning, Purple. You enjoy the commissary videos, Mike? Anyone have plans for today? Not me. Not really. I got to work on a video and editing for Monday. I'm happy your grandpa, he escaped and had beers at the VFW. All. Yeah, but they couldn't keep him there. We eventually ended up taking him out of the adult nursing facility he was in, and we moved him back home and then hired a full-time nurse to be at home with him. So it just, I'm going to go spin Pokestops. My wife and my mother-in-law do that on Wednesdays. I guess they have like special in gym invites, raids or something like that. I don't play Pokemon, but people seem to definitely enjoy it. It gets them out there into exercise because they go out walking from place to place. So that's good. I had to stop smoking, or the neurosurgeon wouldn't operate on my spine. I started back up, but since strangled my nicotine addiction. Yeah, I got to that point when I was going to have knee surgery and nerve surgery on my arm. They made me. I had to go on Chantix for 30 days. That's what I was supposed to be. When I had my knee surgery, I didn't do it so much. K-Love raids, yeah, they go on raids on Wednesdays. But we have a kind of like a strip mall that's got stores on both sides of it, so you can walk around the entire thing. And there's pokey stops along the way, where they gyms, I guess, where they battle, other people, but they walk the entire thing. It's probably one lap around it is probably about 2.5 miles. So they'll do several laps around that. They used to go to the park and exercise, but we're having an issue with the homeless population who are camping in the parks, so don't feel safe. Wouldn't operate. Did you actually have it done, Gene? Did you have the surgery done? I hope everything's better now. I should walk, but I cover more ground driving. Yeah. Were you able to run from the shooter? No. Talking about, I was in the Fred Meyer Kroger store when the active shooter was in the store. He shot and killed one man 3 aisles from where I was, and then shot a second man who's still in the hospital. He's been upgraded from critical to I can't remember what it is now, it, but he's intensive care, but he's not in critical condition now. He's undergone 5 or 6 different surgeries since being shot. But no, I didn't run at all, Francie. I kind of I went to the end of the aisle, then I went into housewares, and I kind of zigzagged through housewares, through automotive, and then out the door to through the garden center, and then from the once I got to the garden center, I went out the back way of the garden center and around. I try to avoid main entrances, or places where people were going. I mean, I was just, and it was like that. I was thinking on my feet as I went. It's like, okay, what's the best way to get out of here? And and if I saw somebody coming down one aisle or something, I went the opposite direction because I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, in my head, I did, but I didn't at the same time. It was like, that's fucking gunfire. And that's the most horrific part of it all is to hear something like that in a grocery store when you're not expecting it at all, ever, ever. That it was like I heard the first one and I was like, I didn't just hear that, and then I heard another. And I think I heard a third, but I'm at that point I was like, that's it. I'm not looking for frozen pizzas anymore. Bye. And I went the opposite direction from where I thought it was coming from. And I got to the end of the aisle and I looked to my left towards the meat department and produce and dairy. And I saw what looked like a commotion down at that end. So I figured that's where the shooting was coming from. So I went the opposite direction. So that was to my left. I went to the right. Lumbar surgery was successful. And I could walk up right again. Scoliosis of the spine. Oh, are you located in the LA area? I haven't relatives who live there and say homeless problems are really bad. No, I don't live in the LA area, but I watch another channel called German in Venice, and he's covered a lot of the homeless issues that are in the LA area and surrounding areas. But no, I live in Washington State, and we're having a huge problem with it here. It's just not as in your face as there in Venice Beach, I guess you could say. But they're in the city parks because they've decided that they're not going to write them tickets or evict them, move them out of the parks. So it started with cars parking overnight and people staying in their cars. Then it was campers and RVs. And then it went from that to tents. And it's just progressively gotten worse and worse and worse and worse to the point now where you can't walk along the river. We have walking paths, concrete walking paths, and we have so there's like two. One's a walking path, one's a jogging and bicycle path that they follow the river. And you can't go down there now, at least not anywhere near dusk. You know, they just don't feel safe, so they walk in another area. Going on listening mode. It's cool to having your conversation running while getting ready to start the day. Thumbs up for 411. Yeah, don't forget to give this a thumbs up if you enjoy this. I really appreciate it. Kathleen, German in Venice is great. He covers a lot with compassion. He does, but just like everything else, he gets an exorbitant amount of hate. Not only from the people who he's covering and what the situations that he's covering, excuse me, where a lot of people think that he's exploiting it for monetary gain. Um, but it's not that way. That's not what he's trying to do, and it's not his intentions is to exploit them. He's showing what's really going on there and what policies and everything else and how those policies are affecting, the population. Very different firearms laws there. I'm best to not weigh in on this topic. Do you think the rain is ever going to stop? Dee Dee Parks. Good morning, Dee Dee. I'm sorry if I missed you earlier. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Uh, I don't know where it's raining at, but it's not raining here. Super Chat Cat. Good morning. Yep, eliminated of the middle class. We're heading towards a second tier society, rich or poor. It definitely feels that way. Being in the middle class was a real struggle, no matter where you are. He's probably trying to hold the officials accountable. Yeah, that and showing the compassion to the homeless population there, that they're not all what people misspelling the rumors that everyone who's homeless is a drug addict or an alcoholic or on something. Some of them are just unfortunate because the high cost of rents, have forced them into the situation. Some of them are families, with children. They're trying to do the best they can to survive, and they don't have the funding to just pick up and move to go someplace else. If they could, they would, but they're stuck in a horrible situation, and that's what he's trying to show with his channel. And give compassion to those who are being affected right now. Dee Dee Parks in Western Washington. Is it raining over there pretty good? Excuse me. I'm in eastern part of the state. I would love some rain here, but we haven't gotten any rain in a while. Brenda Grass, good morning. As a veteran, did the store shooting trigger PTSD? I don't know, Francie. I mean, my wife says it definitely affected me, but I don't know. To give you an honest answer, I mean, I've definitely had. It's been a recurring thought that keeps on coming to my head over and over again. It's something that's definitely I guess it's affected me, and I don't know if in a negative way, but it's the last time I heard gunfire, in an unexpected location was when a fellow Marine took his own life, and it wasn't a pleasant experience for me. And it immediately brought that back, but I don't know if that would necessarily qualify as PTSD. I've never been diagnosed with PTSD, and I don't want to say that I have it or that this gave me PTSD, because I know people who have PTSD and how it's affected their lives. So, got you on the TV cooking, so won't be in chat. That's okay. It's a crying shame. Good morning, and welcome to News and Chat. Obviously, this is the chat portion of the show. I live in Las Vegas, and we have our share of homeless, but yes, they're not all drug addicts. Some have talked with the fallen on hard times. Yeah, I gotta get down to Vegas. Gotta get down there. My grandmother lived there until she passed away. God rest her soul. But she lived in McLaughlin. She worked at Circus for close to 40 years, I want to say, or pretty much from, a long majority of the time the Circus was there. She sold tickets for shows. Well, I share my insight on Columbine. I don't know enough about it. I know there was a horrific shooting. It never should have taken place. The yeah, there's not much I can really say about Columbine. I'm sorry. Army girl, hello from Tacoma, Washington. I once lived in Tacoma. I lived in Tacoma, Washington, right next to Tacoma Mall. I worked at Frederick and Nelson's department store. I was a window dresser. That was my job. That and I stocked the bags at all the registers and helped old ladies carry their purchases out to their cars. I went to Stadium High School. Um, so from I lived right next to the Tacoma Mall. I drove all the way across the town to Stadium High School. You have a friend, and her name is Tacoma. Well, that's cool. Tahoma. Tahoma. I liked my time there. I liked Stadium High School. It was a good school. That was back 87, 88, 89, right in there. When I lived there. I worked for Frederick and Nelson's until they closed. That was a messed up job. I applied for the job and it was supposed to be temporary seasonal, like during the holidays. And not even 2 days after working there, like they fired two of the guys who worked at the loading dock, and they fired another person who was doing another job because they caught them all stealing from the store. They were stealing those stupid chocolates, Frango mints and chocolates. So they fired them all, and they're like, "Would you like a full time job?" And I'm like, "I go to high school. I can work around that." And they're like, "Great, this job is from 1:30 in the morning till 5." And I'm like, "Okay." And this job is part time and does, and these are the hours after school. Did they catch the store shooter, Francie? Yes, they did. They caught him near Spokane, Washington, and they extradited him back down here to the area and he has been charged with one count of first degree murder, one count of attempted first degree murder right now, and is what they're holding him on. They have him on $1.5 million, excuse me, bail. He is looking at their. He did some other things beforehand, so those charges are still pending, but they're not officially on his jacket, I guess, whatever they call it now, right now at this point. But there's two other felonies, plus I there was talk in the paper about he may, because of something else that he did in the past, he may not have been technically legal to own a firearm. I don't know if he was a felon in possession of a firearm or if he has a domestic violence charge and that's why he couldn't have a firearm. But they weren't really clear in the news article about that. But they definitely have him in jail. What was his issue? His issue, mental health. The interview with his former roommate and business partner said that everything about their business and everything was going great. They were buying homes and flipping them. They had a couple others that they're renting out as Airbnbs. And he lived in another home along with his business partner, where they had three roommates, so there were four people total who rented the house and paid for it. And he said slowly his mental health just started going away until and it got more and more and more and more bizarre. Um, So he made the other roommates feel uncomfortable, so they asked him to leave. And then he was living in his car or someplace else. He had been stopped several times for shoplifting, or they knew about certain cases of shoplifting at another store, another Kroger store. And so he was like 86 banned from that store. So he then started showing up at the Kroger store where I was at, where he did the shooting. Now, I've definitely seen him there before in the past. And I know who both of the employees are that he shot. But if he wouldn't have gotten 86 from that other store, he probably would have done it there. But mental health, he was convinced that he was being watched and listened and followed by the government. And a lot of the ways they explained what was happening to him, it sounds like he was having either a schizophrenic, a violent schizophrenic episode, or he was definitely bipolar or somewhere along that lines. But I'm no doctor, so do not take my understanding of what they said as to be the truth of what really is going on with him. Reba Lungsford, I have PTSD, but I was due to illness, not service. Praying for all those who suffer. The the Kroger store that where the shooting took place has been closed until tomorrow. They're going to reopen the store for that day on a limited basis, limited hour basis. And then on Monday, they're going to restart the a la carte services. That's a separate company that works inside the store. In case you're not familiar with what a la carte it is, you can be at home, pick up your phone, and with the app, you can order your groceries, and they either bring them out to your car or they deliver them for a service fee to you locally. I think it's only within 20 miles because there's another store that's 20 miles away, so the two have over coverage. But a la carte is a separate business, and the one guy the guy he actually killed um, worked for a la carte. I have his name, their names here somewhere. Yeah. Well, it might be over there on the stand. Special crime scene cleaning companies now. Yeah, there are a couple that actually have YouTube channels on top of it. I don't think that was the reason why they closed the store. It was more for the employees to make sure that they got each and every one of the employees who was there that day um, counseling. Fred Meyer Kroger Corporation has really stepped up and has taken care of not only the one individual who's still in the hospital, but they, along with Instacart, they've made sure that the family of the young man who was shot and killed have been taken care of. That they're never going to have to worry about the funeral expenses or anything else. And they've set up a trust fund for you know in memorial to him that the and everything else. But they've raised about 275,000 dollars right in there for both of them for the medical expenses, funerals, and everything else. So neither family is going to have to worry about it, and they wanted to make sure that the other employees, got to talk to someone if they did so, if they needed to. So I got to give Kroger family business, the corporation. I got to give them kudos, man. They really stepped up and never made it public that they were doing it. It just happens to be that we know people who actually work for the store. They weren't there that day, but they did contact and reach out to every employee, part-time, full-time, it didn't matter. And every employee who's been off for this entire past week, they gave them all 100% benefits, pay, everything for every employee, part-time, full-time, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you started last week and you only had one day. They paid your wages for the week and said, here, we want to make sure you're good, so you don't have to leave us because you need to find a way to, survive. And they didn't make them wait a week. They gave them all that money up front the day after the actual shooting. They said, we're going to be closed. Here's your pay that you would have earned. And they took care of all of them. So big thumbs up to the Kroger family, grocery store chain. But I'll be going by on Sunday. I made two of the memorials. There were four total for the young man who was shot and killed. But I made two of the four. But I'm going to go by tomorrow to see my friend Lori, who works at the store, because the second victim was probably about 6 feet from her when he was shot. He's the one that's still in the hospital, and he's an actual Kroger employee who's worked there forever. I mean, I can't remember ever going into the store and not seeing him, and he was always so happy to be there. People ask me, it's like, well, this is the job for him. I'm like, no, I don't think it was. He really enjoyed working there. It wasn't a day you would see him walking down the aisles, stocking shelves, doing whatever he needed to do, and he was always whistling, and he was always happy to see people, and he greeted you as you came in. The exemplary employee, but he's still in the hospital, so we're all praying for that he makes a full recovery. It is, it's definitely a tragic situation. I just can't get past the of all the places that I frequent. You think about your day-to-day life. Maybe you go to work and you stop at a gas station every morning, or a coffee place and get a coffee or a tea on the way to work. And it's so routine to you to how you get in the store, the employees, how the transactions all work and everything about that. it in my mind, there's never been a second thought about walking into that store. Didn't matter what I was there for. I mean, I go in to buy a loaf of bread and that's it. It could be something mundane as that. I need to go buy a pack of shoelaces. I've never thought in my mind ever. Didn't matter what hour of the day it was, morning, afternoon, or just before closing. Going into that store, it never thought at all that it was dangerous to ever go there. And now I have that in my head that it's not, that pristine, place that, where you never have to worry about, danger, being around the next corner. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a local police officer. And the one thing that they're worried about the most is copycats because, they got so much media attention and so much, press, not nationwide and locally. They're afraid, and they're worried about what, somebody else who's on that border or edge is like, that guy got a lot of attention. I'm going to do that. So that's something that they're really worried about and trying to head off and, and prevent from happening. But what can you do? There are crazy people out there everywhere that are suffering and they haven't been able to get the medical attention, or in this case of this guy, I mean, for 6 months prior to the shooting, everybody around him knew he was losing it, but he couldn't go get help anywhere because everything was closed because of COVID. So they couldn't say, you know what, you're not right. We're going to put you in the hospital. on a 48-hour, watch, so you can talk to somebody because we think you're a harm to yourself, and you could harm yourself. They couldn't even do that because of COVID. All the beds are being booked up in the hospital for, those who have COVID. And they weren't taking anybody in for, elective surgeries, nothing. So, I mean, it's just a perfect storm, and it's going to play out somewhere else again soon. If it doesn't happen in a grocery store, it's going to happen at a school or a work or something, and we all know it's going to happen. Barry Morphew. Super chat cat. To answer your question, I've watched the actual surveillance video from the store. They had it on the evening news here, and they showed him walking into the store. He was hunting. He was hunting for someone or anyone that was in a vulnerable situation in the store. He walked around the store for about 20 minutes, never picked up an item, never put anything in his cart. And it was, he went up and down the aisles, stopped at the end of aisles, peeked around the corner, and he was watching people. Instead of them coming towards him, they walked the other direction. I mean, talk about lucky, individuals. I mean, and the gentleman he shot and killed was on aisle 14. I was on aisle 17. So that's how far off I was from him. And then, but you see him walk around the surveillance video, and then he stops at the top of the aisle next to the gentleman he would eventually end up shooting and killing. And he then approached him, walked away from his cart, approached him, and maybe had asked him where something was. Because there's no audio. And then he walked back to his cart, grabbed his cart, moved it forward a little bit, point blank range, shot him. And then when he went down on the ground, it was like a pause, and then he shot him again while he was on the ground. They said they think he may have been shot 3 times, but I don't know if they've released it. The real, if he was shot 3 times or just 2 times. But he shot him while he was on the ground, there in the store. But the bullet hole, one may have went through him and then ricocheted off the concrete floor and then back up. So, but either way, he's deceased, and God bless his family. They have to be going through a horrific time right now. Idea of age of the shooter. Didi, he is, I believe, 57, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Did you consider shooting back, Francie? I will not answer that question. And please respect that I'm not going to answer questions on if I had my carry on me or not. Because a lot of people who watch this content, I do not wish to get into the argument if I should have been carrying or if I wasn't carrying. So I respectfully will not be answering that question, other than to say that where the shooting took place, there were way too many people on the opposite side of where the shooter was for in order to have a safe, clean shot. You would have been just racking up the casualties for anybody who would have tried to shoot on the, at the, or take out the shooter, because on the opposite side of where he was when he shot the second individual is the customer service, and then the self checkout, and then the jewelry department and pharmacy are all within a V on the opposite side of where that shooter was. So you would have had 30, 40 people on the backside. Unless you're a damn good shot and you were able to do it, nobody should have taken it from where my advantage point was. Was there another advantage point where somebody else in the store could have? And that's the scariest part about it. It wasn't like he had a long barreled, rifle. and was in a store. It was a handgun. And who is the bad guy in that situation? If I would have walked down the end of the aisle, just hypothetically saying I was carrying, and I saw a guy standing there over at the second victim, is he the shooter, or was he trying to get the shooter? And that guy on the ground, who's an employee, who's wearing an employee name badge, maybe he went nuts and did this. Which one is the actual shooter? Which one do you take out in that situation? Since I didn't actually have eyes on it, and he only paused briefly, for about the 2 seconds before he just casually just walked out of the store. He didn't run. I mean, a lot of other people ran, but I'm glad I'm safe too, and so is my family. But you just never know these things, how they're going to play out. Never know. You can live life, to the purest and take care of yourself and eat your vegetables and exercise and do everything correctly and end up like Jack Ulane, Mr. Juicer himself, died of a massive heart attack. He took care of himself his entire life. You never know. When your time's up, your time's up. I just don't want my time to be up now. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's stream there. I hope everybody had a great, time here today. If you did, quickly give this a thumbs up, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Hopefully, tomorrow we have music trivia tomorrow night at 5 p.m. again, Pacific Daylight Time, not 7 anymore, 5 p.m. So I hope to see you all there, and I hope everyone has a safe and happy weekend if I do not see you in the chat tomorrow. Thank you once again, everyone. Bye.